I understand this Ada pick because it's Queen Nai, and as we talked before, Ada's actually pretty decent in the Queen Nai as long as you know how to use the guns. And Stevenator is not a spear main.
Can use the guns.
Yes.
He actually plays quite a bit of Ada, I've seen. And he's very comfortable with those guns. He's kind of like Kongus. He's insane in hitting those 100 to death strings if you let him.
Ooh.
What am I?
Wilson opens it up with the GC neutral sig just to be able to indicate that I am Queen Nai, I am here. Throws out a side sig, immediately punished by a sider, and Stevenator finds the guns, doesn't want to toss them away. A bunch of weapons spawning, both players sticking to their preferred weapons, but 2 downers, 3 downers in a row. Stevenator's on jumps.
Steve's dead.
Steve just died to probably one of the slowest and most excruciating to live through Qatar camps I've ever seen, where Wilson's just...
That's not something a player like Stevenator should be dying to. That's just so telegraphed and obvious that he's
I think that's why it worked. I didn't expect it. Like, Wilson holding on the guitars recovers away.
Oh, man.
And Wilson's doing a good job against Stevenator's Ada here. He's already got him in the orange. A Nair lands, sends him closer to the red. Side stick comes out. A side stick on an Ada in orange would kill. And Stevenator playing around with the spear right now. Definitely not what he wants to do. And Wilson's just spamming side stick after side stick. Goes for another one. Stevenator just maneuvering around them. Finds a D-Light Sider into another Sider. Sends him into the orange. But Wilson's already got Ada at kill percent.
But it's not really working out. Stevenator is managing to find the damage he needs, but he has to work through a whole stock. That Nair actually out-prioritizing a ground pound, and he manages to get out of the way of the bomb before it explodes. That was actually insane, but Stevenator still a rather large disadvantage.
Ooh.
And the ground pound will
Ground pound definitely does it. And, well, stock lead for Wilson. Stevenator calls in the weapon, actually gets the unarmed combo into the Valkyrie, but the weapon is just tossed off the stage as Stevenator tries to pick it up, falls into the depths, and Wilson continues to deny Steve from anything that he wants to play with. It kind of sucks here because I feel like Steve only has one weapon option when it comes to this matchup, and Wilson's not even allowing him to have one of them.
Okay. I mean, like, Steve is comfortable with Spear against Queen Nai as long as the Queen Nai is using Katars, because Spear versus Katar is definitely a matchup you can run away with if you're good, and Steve is definitely good.
Yeah, that is true. D-Light Sider coming in, and Stevenator...
He's doing pretty good right now.
Yeah, D-Light Sider actually connects, and Stevenator's looking at it, and the stock Sider comes in again, and Wilson's running low on jumps. I think that's it.
That's it. Yeah. Okay. So Stevenator just showing his dominance very much so in that stock. He's gonna have to keep showing that dominance. He can't turn down or anything because Wilson still has this significant lead on him, and that bomb will do a lot considering Ada's defense. Goes in for the guns, actually picks them up, and Wilson holding on to the spear tries to go for a D-Light. Stevenator's ready to punish with the down air, and Stevenator can take this if he plays this a little slowly. Gets a nice gun string coming off, but Wilson's actually getting hits in here and there. And there's the D-Light Sider. Yeah, the D-Light Sider coming in again. Good with it. Look at those reads.
Stevenator actually dominating Wilson with the spear. Finds another Sider, putting him closer into the orange. Stevenator's bringing this back. Dodges past the end stick, gets another D-Light Sider, and Wilson's put into the red. Another D-Light Sider. He's just hitting him with the same 2 moves over and over again. And that might be Wilson's stock. Goes for the ground pound. No, makes it back to the stage. Weapon toss on the ground pound. Comes out. Wilson clips him with that dive kick, and Wilson's on the side of the stage right now, ready to lose his stock. Down stick comes in from Ada. Goes in for that chase dodge Sider. Weapon toss comes out, and the down stick connects.
That might be it.
Whoa, he dodges back.
Really surviving. Okay. Okay, this air. Wow, what a game!
Stevenator
brings it back.
And considering that stock was lost at the very start, like that's insane.
I mean, Wilson just went down the mental hellhole right there. Like there's no going back. He has to be so tilted after that game. It's gonna take so much mental fortitude.
5 downlight Siders into a kill percent. Like that was crazy. Stevenator just got that spear, held on to it, and dominated Wilson in that spear ditto.
Yeah. I mean, if you realize what Stevenator just did, he basically 2-stocked Wilson, and then it was a lot closer because he died at white. But if Steve doesn't die at white, it's possible we might just see like a 3-stock.
Yeah, Stevenator's actually racking up the damage on Wilson here. Some D-Light Siders coming out from Wilson as well. Goes for the down stick. Neither of the hits actually connecting with Wilson. And Stevenator finds himself on the side. Goes for a ground pound, trying to get as much damage on the stock. But that ground pound from Steve will do it. Right. That's a very early kill from Steve.
Yeah, 40-second kill from Stevenator. Only took damage into the yellow, but that neutral light does so much damage on unarmed.
Wilson gets hit by that unarmed combo. Ooh, the recovery comes out but doesn't connect. Wilson trying to get that D-Light to connect himself. Side sig comes up, but Stevenator is not one to run into Queen Eye side sigs, and that neutral light comes out, putting more damage onto Wilson. D-Light coming out from the guns, side air, down air, into another D-Light, but the D-Light doesn't connect, but Wilson already sent into the orange on Queen Eye, tries to go for a ground pound, but Wilson reads it with a neutral light of his own. Neutral light responded to by Stevenator,
wow.
but Stevenator is bringing Wilson closer to kill percent.
Yeah, that recovery just got interrupted by Steve's down air. And he goes for the taunt when the guy's not dead. He hits the second one though. Doesn't get punished. But Wilson's already in red. Wilson is looking pretty bad. He's gonna have to start playing. He's gonna have to start pulling off some more of those slow gimps or something if he wants to bring this back.
Wilson goes for the sideline. GC
wow.
GC neutral light to punish that silent approach is actually really creative from Steve. Steve holds on to the guns, puts out the side sig, baits Wilson into approaching, and Wilson actually gets some damage off. Neutral light connects. Steve playing
Steve
rather
can't
slowly.
find anything.
Ooh, the end sig connects, but you're right, he's not really approaching.
Yeah,
but I guess
that's only 8 damage.
he's not too concerned. I feel like Steve feels like he can end the stock pretty quickly.
Yeah, but he has to find the kill. Wilson's not making mistakes. Like, you see Wilson's playing smart, and he's going to wait for Steve to pull something like that out.
A D-Light Cider comes out, and yeah, Wilson's kind of taking back the momentum in this game. Stevenator's kind of lost his edge, and an N-Sig comes out. Stevenator's in kill percent. Wilson tosses the spear off the side. Spear comes down onto Wilson's face, goes for a down sig, assuming that Stevenator's going to dodge in, and the downer actually connects. Wilson's looking to kind of take the lead in this match. Downer comes out, comes in with a nair instead of a cider, and
Steve doesn't know how to finish Wilson off.
Gets hit by a ground pound as he recovers. And it seems like as though Stevenator completely lost his way in this match. Wilson holding on to guitars. Stevenator's just waiting for a weapon spawn.
He doesn't know how to like all he had to do was just like figure out some simple unpunishable approaches, stuff like, you know, just go for some safe snares or something, but instead he goes for like a dodge and down sig, like these things that can be punished very easily by guitars.
Spear is tossed into Steve's face.
Strange.
Goes in for a D-Light, but he actually gets the poke stick on the way down. Goes for a down stick, and Wilson loves that. Gets a side air, trying to get whatever damage he can on Ada. Side light comes out, side air as well. Ada brought basically into the orange. Weapon toss confirms it into a ground pound. And Stevenator tries to go for a ground pound as well. Down stick disarms Stevenator, and Wilson's trying to end the stock. No, Wilson dies. He doesn't touch the wall. What?
LDZ, is that you?
Similar legend, not similar player, however, and Wilson loses his stock. I saw what he was trying to go for there, but he didn't tap left at all, and he ends up getting destroyed. And that might give Stevenator what he needs to be able to take this match. He's finding some gun strings finally, and Wilson.
Ooh, dodges too early against the ground pound.
D-Light Cider comes in, and Wilson's in a terrible position. No, he Ciders into the mine as he tries to get away from Stevenator's N-Sig, and Wilson's being brought to kill percent. D-Light Cider comes out, and wow, that was like, if there one way to lose a match that you had in the bag that was what we just saw from Wilson there.
He tried so hard to lose that match, but all right.
Wilson ends up taking game 2, and we're moving on to game 3 in this winner's semis match between Wilson and Stevenator. We're going to see whether or not Stevenator switches legends. I think he wants to stick with the Ada, but I'm just not quite sure what the disconnect was from Steve there. It happened midway through the match. He got Wilson to kill percent, missed a few things, and then suddenly it seemed like he shut down.
Yeah, I don't know. He's gonna stick with the Ada though, and I think he can definitely do this. Like, Steve and Wilson both have a great shot at winning this. I feel like when Wilson was playing like that full parry, just forcing Steve to come to him, for some reason Steve was just like incapable of figuring out how to approach Wilson.
Steve goes in for the D-Light Cider, finds it, goes for the weapon toss, but it's a little too late, doesn't connect, and Wilson trying to respond with some D-Light combos of his own. Spears tossed off the side of the map. Wilson stopping Stevenator from getting any gadgets or weapons, putting on the damage onto Stevenator's Ada, and a D-Light Cider puts him into the orange. Goes for that ground pound, sends Stevenator low. Weapon toss, does get it, goes for the recovery, and he gets him to the red. Wilson goes for that down sig. Stevenator picks up the bomb, tosses directly to the ground, and you might get neutralized into it. Side sig comes out. Stevenator's ready to move around it, tries to get more unarmed damage, but Stevenator's looking dangerously close to losing this stock.
Steve is not looking very good at all right now. Wilson is just sort of doing exactly what he needs to take this game away. I mean, he's got a fairly large lead already. Steve needs to start figuring out how to approach Wilson. The approaches just aren't working.
Nope.
Like,
He gives him that face bomb as well to say, that was something I intended to kill, and it didn't work out. The neutral air, unarmed, not quite doing it on Steve's Ada. Tosses 2 spears in the face to Stevenator, and third spear nearly dodges into that one. That one will definitely connect, and Stevenator is like, gets the ground pound. This might be the stock. Stevenator goes for another ground pound, and Wilson just accepts death. He could have jumped. I don't get it. Wilson, what are you doing?
Wilson was so far ahead, and he just gets gimped by Steve.
I think that's why we don't see Wilson go off stage quite often, and Steve definitely riding this lead now.
Yeah, Wilson is very uncomfortable off stage.
He goes beneath the stage, and Wilson
it's really just a weakness.
Takes the bomb, and Stevenator's just playing around underneath the stage right now. Wilson holding on to the guitar.
Because he knows.
Yeah.
He knows if he just waits down there, like either Wilson comes and gets him, and he gets a lot of free damage because of it, or Wilson sits there the entire game and he wins because he has more stocks.
Right.
Like if Wilson can't play off stage, then
I've yet to see it in tournament, but it is possible to get a timeout in Brawlhalla. I've yet to see it in any GC tournament or anything in general. But Stevenator could technically do this for 5 minutes and 30 seconds, and if Wilson never goes off the stage, he will win by default for having a stock lead.
It's true. I mean, like, Wilson's trying to figure out, but you see the second he goes off stage, he's actually just dead.
Oh no, Stevenator killed himself!
Killed himself!
Yes!
So, okay, what happened?
What?
Steve tried to, he thought Wilson was dead, right? So what he tried to do was pivot his recovery so that he wouldn't hit Wilson upwards, right?
Right.
Because if he hits Wilson upwards, he's going to save him, because he's assuming Wilson's dead. But what ended up happening instead was he pivoted too far, and he ends up recovering into the bottom of the stage, which means he died instead. So it was just a straight up mistake. Like, he misread how many jumps Wilson had, and then he killed himself.
So now he's kind of got to get that stock lead once again. Stevenator going in for the sidelight, and Steve actually gets a little bit of damage onto Wilson. Wilson is nearing kill percent. Stevenator goes back to that strategy, and Wilson, you could tell Wilson is not happy with this at all, because if Stevenator didn't mess up that recovery, Stevenator would have a solid stock lead over Wilson right now. This is interesting. Wilson putting out that face bomb, and Stevenator trying to see if he can punish it. Both players.
I mean, Wilson doesn't know how to edge guard at all. Like, all he knows how to do is play the get up game. If you don't get up, then what does he do? He doesn't know what to do. He's just sitting there. He literally doesn't want to chase after Steve because he knows he's bad at it. So he's just gonna keep standing here and waiting the timeout. But like, if you do that, it's probably not a good idea, because like, Stevenator is closer to getting a kill than you. And if it goes to the super late time, well, that doesn't count anymore.
Oh
Steve
no!
Just killed himself.
So Wilson finally decides to go off stage, gets the down air, forces Stevenator on stage, and Steve misses the ledge that he has been hugging so dearly throughout this match. And now Wilson is at a point where he can't. Stevenator can't play the ledge anymore. Well, now he can. Okay. Gets the recovery. Both players in the last stock. 3 minutes left into the game, and Stevenator looks like he's willing to duke it out on the stage. No. Staying on that ledge, waiting for Wilson to approach, and the neutral light's put out.
He's playing a little bit more on the stage this time, but he's not really finding anything. Steve is really having trouble finding anything, any sort of approach against Wilson. Like, it's easy to say, oh, hey, look, Steve is being super parry and annoying, but it's really just him responding to how Wilson is playing. Like, Wilson doesn't approach at all.
Ooh, simultaneous spear toss into each other's face. Yeah, but Steve finding something in, gets the weapon toss unarmed, and actually puts a decent amount of damage onto Wilson. Wilson dodges out of the way of that downer, gets the gun, Cider comes out, ground pound actually connects in the very end of that hitbox, and Wilson responds to the recovery. Both players exchanging a decent amount of moves now. Steve goes back near the ledge. Wilson goes for a down sig.
So Steve does find the damage lead, and he's just playing super careful now and forcing Wilson to get impatient. You see, like, Steve, he just found all of his patience when he started doing the ledge camping, and he was like, he knows that he has more patience than Wilson, and we see that in this neutral game that's happening. Wilson is, like, trying desperately to approach when he's really bad at approaching.
Ooh, that mine being put into an interesting position for Stevenator. Gotta wait for that platform to rise up and move out of the way before he recovers. No, bomb just explodes. Stevenator puts out a side air and actually gets punished by a sidelight. That puts him into the orange. Stevenator is getting a little impatient, tries to go in and goes back to his ledge strategy. Both players are in the orange. 2 minutes left to go.
So how do you make progress here as either player?
I think Wilson's just eventually going to bait Stevenator into doing something where he can hit him. He's only going to use the downer from the spear. Or not Stevenator, Wilson. Wilson's only going to use the downer from the spear.
Wilson just needs to practice how to play against people on the edge. Like, maybe if you ever ledge guarded ever, this wouldn't be such a problem.
You would
because
say
all
that.
you have to do is pick up a spear and, like, do an up throw with some momentum and then follow it up with a ground pound, or even pick up another weapon, do a double weapon throw, or something like that. Like, there's so many setups you can do when you know they're going to be on the ledge that he's just not doing for some reason. Instead, he's just forcing himself to play in the center stage while Steve abuses the fact that Wilson doesn't know what
Wilson's getting
what
some
to do.
attacks though.
I mean, yeah, he's finding some stuff as Steve comes up and gets impatient. It looks like this might end up going into overtime.
Yeah,
Because
definitely
both players
will.
are refusing to go to the zone that the other player's in.
And we don't go off damage when it comes to these last two stocks, so it's gonna have to be like a sudden death thing. I haven't really thought about like what we do officially for this. Do we just do like both players play with one
Officially, what
stock?
happens is it goes into a 2-minute overtime where both players are at deep red.
Okay, so it's just sudden
Basically the
death.
same
It's just
situation
sudden
we're at
death.
right now. Yeah.
But like, what stops them from doing this? Bombs fall out of the sky? Because that's what happens on Smash.
If the 2 minutes runs out, it actually finishes as a tie. So,
Interesting.
and you don't have any rule in the GCS
No,
rules
because
that-
I've never thought this
dictate
was possible.
ties,
This is
so-
gonna happen.
Yeah, they're gonna go to
I'm
overtime,
gonna-
but it's
I'm-
2 minutes of overtime, and I feel like Steve
Might.
isn't gonna run the whole 2 minutes out of overtime. He's gonna probably want to go for something.
Yeah, I mean,
Cause like the thing with overtime is like, oh, Wilson's finally figuring out how to do something.
oh no, Wilson!
Oh no!
10 seconds left. Stevenator's trying to look down the stock. There's 8 seconds left on the clock. We're gonna go into overtime. Wilson,
He was...
hits with the cider, and where's the tiebreaker? 2 minutes.
Both players get an equal weapon spawn. So basically anything kills right now. Like a Qatar Sarah will kill. Like look how much.
Weapon toss comes in, goes to the ground pound. Stevenator holding onto the guns. Tries to go in for it. Goes in for that nair.
Spooky.
Wilson, they're both players just agreeing to play on this overtime now.
Oh man.
Goes in for the nair.
Oh.
Nearly kills at the top. Weapon toss. It encounters with both players. Sidelight comes out. They're hitting each other with moves that don't kill. Downlight comes out. More damage being racked onto these players. A minute 30 left.
Man.
Goes in for the end sig. Doesn't work out. Stevenator goes back to the ledge. Recovery
Repent.
is put out. Weapon toss doesn't
Weapon
connect.
toss.
Why can't they hit each other with things that kill? Oh no, Wilson.
He finds the nair kills! Stevenator gets the game!